Hi, I'm Ann Edenfield-Sweet, Executive Director for Wings for Life International, and we are so happy that you're with us here tonight. We have an excellent speaker. I've known Eileen for years, and she is just dedicated, caring, just the best. And boy, what we're going to learn tonight about fetal alcohol syndrome, drug-addicted babies, and shaken baby syndrome is going to scare all of us, I'll tell you. Let's see. And all of those, let me say, are totally preventable. So we are going to learn how to prevent all these so we don't have any more babies born with these problems. Eileen has worked for St. Joseph's Children Telehealth visiting program, and she works with individuals that are parenting for the first time. And now St. Joseph's is covering all of New Mexico, and she is a referral specialist, a family recruitment specialist, and she also does registration for her area in New Mexico. She has been employed with St. Joseph's for 11 years, and everything that they do is free and it's voluntary. And it's a wonderful program. So if you are listening and think, boy, I'd like to know more, she's the one to call because this is a free program. She's worked with families and children for over 25 years, and prior to St. Joseph, she's worked for the Albuquerque Public Schools, PB&J. She's earned her bachelor's degree in human services, and of course, many other certificates that go along with all her education, everything she's done. She is an excellent, caring individual. She enjoys helping others, meeting new people, and learning about different cultures. And she does that certainly by going into the various homes that she goes to visit. She's on the board of directors for Casey's Cause, a program that serves individuals that are suffering from prenatal and postpartum depression. And so she is just wonderful. And so I'm so happy she's with us tonight. So Eileen, tell us all about these things.
Hi, thank you for having me. Wings program has been an amazing influence on myself and an awesome resource to families that we serve in the program I work for. So I want to thank Ann and everyone who's here tonight. Well, shaken baby, I'm gonna mostly focus tonight on shaken baby syndrome. And I brought my baby models. This is the model for the shaken baby. I'm also going to touch base on fetal alcohol syndrome and the drug-affected baby as well, the drug-exposed baby. And I think that I would like to start first with the video. And I do always like to make a little disclaimer. And I don't know, everyone may not have the luxury of being able to step out, but maybe you can look away if it's too disturbing to anybody watching. But you know, it can be very emotional to some people. So we're going to show this video now, and it's about approximately 13 minutes.
Tears from a local mother whose baby was allegedly shaken.
I sat in his nursery and I made the choice to unhook him.
Doctors themselves spotted the signs of a shaken baby.
He shook her for 10 to 15 seconds.
The medical examiner today confirmed police suspicions in ruling that the baby was shaken to death.
Experts say it happens at least 1,500 tragic times every year. That's how many babies are violently shaken or slammed into something hard just to keep them quiet, just to get them to stop crying.
They grab the child around the chest and shake violently.
He broke 3 posterior ribs with his grip alone. She suffered a skull fracture.
The last time she abused him, he was 11 weeks old. The first time he was 9 weeks old.
We didn't know what to expect. I mean, it was just, we knew she had a brain injury and would never be normal, but we didn't have a clue, what her life would be like.
He took us in the room, closed the door, and said, your daughter is the victim of shaken baby syndrome.
That's when they said shaken baby syndrome, and I kind of went, huh? But, what is that?
Blood on the brain, tearing brain tissue, brain swelling, bleeding in the back of the eyes, retinal detachment, bone fractures, mental retardation, seizures, cerebral palsy, death. These are some of the tragic consequences of shaken baby syndrome.
It's not anything that can happen accidentally. It's not anything you're going to do in play. It's not the throwing them up in the air and catching them. It's, we have parents worried, well, if I jog with my child in the backpack, if I'm riding a horse, none of that's going to cause it. This is a very violent shaking with somebody who's lost it.
It was only 10 to 15 seconds, and it has had a lifetime of horrible consequences that cannot be undone, that cannot be fixed, that cannot be erased or, said sorry for.
Medical support's a fight with the insurance companies. Medical companies don't pay anything for children with significant disabilities unless it's a runny nose or diarrhea. The school system is another fight because parents, don't want their children in the same classroom with my son.
She has struggled really hard in school. I mean, she's, several years behind her peers and just about all areas of learning, she only has 50% of her brain, but, she tries real hard and she just, just really hard for her to learn and keep up.
The doctors and the CPS, the investigators said that she was by far the worst case they had ever dealt with to survive. That most shaken babies they had handled didn't make it.
It was so horrific. It's burned into my brain. I will never forget any of that day.
That's just more frustration.
She doesn't blow out the candles on her birthday cake because she can't. She's not going to ride a bike. She's not going to have a prom dress, But it's just a lot of stuff was taken from her. Things, that I got to do that she's not going to get to do. And that's just really sad. There were a lot of things that I always imagined that I would do with my daughter, and I just won't.
She was viciously assaulted, shaken, and beaten to death that day. Although she lingered for 3 days in ICU, she died because of abusive head trauma at the hands of her babysitter.
If you think something's wrong, don't let anyone ever convince you that you're wrong.
Babies aren't built to withstand violent, shaking forces that literally can rip the brain, often causing serious, even life-threatening damage.
And the way I kind of like to explain it is a baby brain's like unformed jello, or an adult brain's like jello jigglers. So it sloshes more. And also in the baby's brain, there's actually more space between the brain and the skull than in an adult, so there's basically more slosh room. And the base of the skull, in an adult, you get projections up into your brain that kind of hold onto your brain. In a baby, it's flat. So basically what you've got is ungelled jello in a container, which is the skull, sloshing around and moving around.
When babies are violently shaken, not only are their brains injured, but blood vessels also break, causing bleeding between the brain and skull, and bleeding on the inside of the back of the eyes. Doctors look for this telltale bleeding to help figure out what someone did to a child.
She didn't have a bruise on her. That was so puzzling, is that she looks perfect. How can she be in a coma? How can she be on life support? She looks fine. There's no cuts, there's no broken bones, there's nothing.
As a physician, that's what I help investigators figure out, because sometimes it is. Sometimes whatever they're saying happened probably did happen and caused the injuries that we're seeing. sometimes not. So if they're giving some history that there's no way, either one, the child developmentally isn't at an age where they could have done those things, or two, it's not consistent with the pattern of injuries we're seeing, they're caught.
Take a look at these families. Mothers, fathers, sisters, brothers, victims. And each one, in their own way, has been touched and scarred by shaken baby syndrome. It's a syndrome that can be prevented. Preventing shaken baby syndrome is a concern of all of us. Educating all caregivers is important. Anyone who cares for a child needs to know that babies cry. It is the caregiver's job to cope with that cry, not stop the cry. If you feel like you're losing control, feel like you've got to shake your baby, stop. Walk away. Call someone. Breathe. Don't ruin your child's life as well as your own.
The most common trigger for abusing a child is crying. It's somebody whose coping skills, whose maturity level isn't there to deal with a crying baby. Babies don't have a lot of responses, that they can tell us what they want. Crying is it. They can't talk to you and say, hey, Mom, I'm hungry, or hey, I've got a wet diaper, it feels icky, or I just am fussy and just cranky. They can't tell you those things, so they're going to cry. And some babies cry more than others. And I think especially if you've got a baby with either medical problems or colic or those difficult-to-soothe babies, it's frustrating for any parent. Crying is frustrating for any parent when you don't know what to do for that baby.
Babies are going to frustrate you. Babies and small children, everybody who raises a child to the age of 1 year, I think, has been to that point where they've been to the end of their rope, frustrated with that child. I think that's universal. And number one, you have to know that that's normal, and you have to prepare and have a way to cope with it.
Now the question is, what can you do to cope? What can you do to avoid the tragedies that we've just seen? The experts say, start with the basics.
Do they have a wet diaper? Do they have a dirty diaper? Does that need to be changed? Are they hungry? Feed them. Do they need to be burped? Burp them. Do they just need to be comforted and need some tender, loving care? Rock them. Some children will respond to motion, so go and ride around the block with them in their car seat. I've had some moms even just put them in a car seat on top of the dryer and run the dryer because the motion of the dryer would help them sleep. Whatever works for your baby, try those things. But if that doesn't work and you've gone through the list and you've tried everything and you're about to lose it, put them in their bed, lay them on their back, make sure they're in a safe environment, and walk out of the room.
It's okay to let a baby cry. That shouldn't make you upset to the point of destroying a child's brain. It's okay to let a child cry. They have cries for myriad things, ranging from hunger to pain to loneliness to fear. You put the child down and in a safe place, in a crib, a playpen, on the floor if you have to, as long as it's a safe environment. And you walk away, and you go outside, and you do what you need to do. You scream out in the middle of the neighborhood, or you call somebody. Call your neighbor. Just don't deal with the child. Just walk away.
If babies cry, you just cope. You need to cope with the situation and, walk away or do what you have to do to prevent them from being in danger.
Everybody's entitled to a bad day, but it shouldn't end somebody's life.
Now, if all else fails, call a crisis hotline or even call 911. But for everyone's sake, please don't let what's building inside of you continue to fester. If you know or suspect an infant has been shaken, immediately seek emergency medical care. Time is very important when a child has been shaken. Even though there may be no outward signs, you need to get them medical care immediately. Please remember, you are not alone. People are ready and willing to help. For more information, call 817-882-8686 or log on to shakenbaby.com. I'm John Hammerly. Thanks so much for watching.
All right, well, thank you all for watching that video. And again, I know it's a very powerful and somewhat graphic video, but sometimes it takes that little bit of that shock factor. And again, I apologize to anybody who had a hard time watching that. But I do have the shaken baby model with me today. And what we like to do is normally under normal circumstances, and I apologize, I haven't done one of these presentations in well over a year. So what we usually do is ask someone for the audience, and normally I would probably ask Anne or someone else if they would like to shake the baby. And maybe many people had the same reaction. I would never shake a baby. Well, people don't wake up in the morning and say, I'm going to shake a baby. I'm going to damage a baby. I may possibly kill a baby today. I may possibly damage a child for life. And not only that, throw away my life as well, in case I'm having to be incarcerated, possibly for the rest of my life, if not long enough time. But since I don't have anyone here to shake this baby for me, what I want to show you is, and I know it's kind of hard, bear with me here. It's kind of hard to see, is that the brain lights up. It shows the brain lighting up. And there's different parts of the brain that is affected when a child is, when someone shakes a baby or a small child. And if that sound of the baby crying is making your blood pressure go up, it's making mine go up too. And that's the idea. Usually I have it crying for a lot longer. And it's very stressful when a child is crying. But that's the only way babies know how to communicate, is when they cry. So I'm gonna go ahead and shake this baby. Okay, so the parts of the brain, I shook the baby for maybe what, 4 seconds, 5 seconds tops. I didn't shake it very long. And the parts of the brain that lit up are in the back of the head here, the back of the skull. And that is where your eyesight is controlled in your brain. So this baby could possibly be blind for the rest of their life. There's other things that can go wrong with a child that you can't see, that you don't know. It might be a learning disability. It could be something that doesn't present itself till the child starts talking, walking, doing different kinds of skills, and they might not know. Something that's very visual, or I should say easy to diagnose, is vision. This baby, when a child is shaken like that, some of the really disturbing symptoms a child has that the doctors can tell and police can tell is that the child usually becomes lethargic. Again, I'm going to be pretty graphic here. The child may vomit. The white of their eyes usually will have many blood vessels in the eyes broken. Again, lethargic is just when the baby or the child just lies there. And many times when a child has been shaken, the person or the family members do not take the child to the doctor right away, because of course they don't want to get in trouble. They're hoping it's not as serious as they are probably afraid it might be, but it usually is. And that's one of the worst things that somebody can do, is wait. The least, very least you can do is get a child to the hospital quickly, but that doesn't happen. Many times that does not happen. It's similar to a severe car crash when the child's brain is hitting the sides of the skull. You know, we have this skull as like our own little built-in helmet, you know. So babies are very resilient. Children and babies are very resilient. But like the video said, it's the brain is very soft and slushy when the child is small, when it's a baby or a small child. So it's like a severe car crash, and that's what is so bad for a baby's well-being and for them to live. I apologize. I need a drink here. I explained to Anna I was having allergies, but the best thing is, prevention. Learning how to take care of a baby and what to do. Not everybody has the luxury of having somebody to help them, or a support system like family, friends, partner. But if you do, you call them, or you put the baby down in a safe place on the floor in their bed. Don't throw them down, you set them down, you put them in the car seat, in a stroller, and you call somebody to help you, whoever that might be, and ask for help, whether if you got good neighbors or somebody you can trust to help you with that child. And then go wet your face, slap yourself, whatever it takes, go outside and scream, I mean, it's not easy. It's very challenging. And one of the hardest parts about being a parent is when you haven't had enough sleep. When you haven't had enough sleep, that's when you have the most challenging time, is because your body's not rested and you just want that baby to be quiet and go to sleep so you can sleep. And it's many times that's when bad things happen, is when you do not have the proper education, and I mean to take care of a child, um, and you haven't slept enough. Now, this does not happen to people with a lower income, or any certain type of individual. This can happen to anyone. Anybody can fall, have that moment of, wow, you're tired and you just shake that baby. There's no what's called socioeconomic um, you know, mold. It can happen to anybody, any income, all walks of life. If you're a parent, this can happen to you, or a caregiver. Many times you'll see on the news about a boyfriend or somebody, that was taking care of the baby. They weren't well equipped. They didn't have the proper training and patience. They just were given, asked to watch the child most of the time. So you can all go to the Reality Works, or the Vimo is the website, and it's Shaken Baby videos. And you can also email, send emails to Anne, and Anne can forward those to me as well. And I'll be happy to answer any and all questions. And I will come back when COVID restrictions are less. And I also have right here, I think I'm gonna go to the drug exposed baby first. This baby here, it's kind of hard to see, but he's what doctors would classify as floppy. He has poor muscle tone, and that's where they don't have very much body fat. See the ribs here? You can see much of the ribs, the arms. They're what's called, doctors, nurses refer to as floppy, which is poor muscle tone. So this again is also can be very graphic. So I'm gonna let you hear this. I don't know if you can tell, it's shaking. Now that is the actual recorded cry of a child who is born drug exposed, and he is hurting. It is in physical pain. Um, and this baby needs drugs. This baby will get drugs. If they're in the hospital, they will give them, depending what type of drug this baby needs, that they've, the doctors or nurses have figured out what this baby is detoxing from. So they will give the baby some type of drug. Otherwise, the baby could die. Could, in fact, may have already had seizures. May be extremely low in weight. They're very hard to soothe. And I mean, as far as to get them to stop crying, they're miserable. They are hard to feed. They don't want to eat. They're hard to get babies to get them to gain weight because of all the other symptoms that they're having. So many times they tube feed them because they will not accept a bottle. But many of the symptoms or delays may not be apparent right away, because as till the baby starts to mature a little bit more, it may have very poor eyesight, may not be able to speak at the average time that they were, usually do. And the same for all the meeting their other milestones, such as sitting up, rolling over, walking, talking, and all those different types of milestones. So many times they don't make it, but again, babies are very resilient, and many times they do, and they can go on to be pretty successful. And but what's hard is when teachers don't know that a child is born exposed to drugs. They may come across as disruptive in class, so that might be, one of the side effects or issues, along with all the other learning disabilities that this child may have in school and at home. Now, this child here, this model is of the fetal alcohol syndrome. And I'll let you look at it for a minute and see what you notice. This baby usually is born also with very low weight, like the drug exposed. Very floppy, again, poor muscle tone. Again, here in the chest wall may look very much different. This here, the bridge of the nose may look flat, more spaced eyes. The ears may look lower. And also, this line we have here above our lip, usually it's not very prominent at all. And the top lip can be much smaller, or almost non-existent. It's kind of hard to see. I apologize, but now, how much is a safe amount of alcohol to drink when you're pregnant? Heck if I know. I don't know. Why take the chance? Because everyone's body is different. Every child is different. Every baby is different. Every single one of us is completely different. Why take the chance? We don't know what is going to be completely damaging to a child. I'll just share with you, I was doing a outreach event at one of the community centers, and I had a young woman. She was like in her early 20s, and she kept coming and she kept saying, I like these dolls, I like them. And she was like, can I see it? Can I hold it? And I was like, sure. And so she was looking at it, and she said, what's this one here? So I was explaining to her, and she tells me, I have fetal alcohol syndrome. And I was like, oh, okay. And she said, yes, my mother drank a lot when I was pregnant, and they took me away from her. She told me that. And I think she said her auntie or someone was raising her. I'm pretty sure it was. And she caught me off guard. And I just told her, I'm sorry. I said, but it seems like you are doing excellent. And she said, I am. She said, I'm doing excellent, but she caught me off guard. I had never had anybody tell me that. But um, these babies, again, can also um, do well. And a child or an adult may not even know they have fetal alcohol syndrome because they might not have any apparent symptoms, and maybe they didn't even know that their mother drank during pregnancy. Maybe they don't know, and they have no features, facial features. So someone who has a um, uh, like some kind of developmental delays, they might actually have some other type of um, fetal alcohol drug exposure that they don't know about, that teachers don't know about, that their doctors don't know about. That's very, very possible. Um, I know we don't have too much time today, and I don't know exactly how much time I have going forward. Right now, we usually have a question and answer, but maybe if we do have a breakout session later, we can get some of those questions answered. But just remember, all of these are preventable. Once it gets to this point, there's no turning back, or this. There's no turning back once this happens, but it can totally, totally be prevented. So please do not keep this information to yourself. Share it with others. Protect our children. Your children, these could be your babies, your grandbabies, your neighbors. I mean, just please do not keep this information to yourself. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Eileen. Thanks. Wow. Powerful. And from what I understand, and later we'll go to breakout rooms, but I believe that fetal alcohol syndrome can either come from the sperm of the man or from the woman. And so,
It retards the sperm. And I forgot to say that, darn it. Yeah, I tell you, I'm out of practice. I haven't done this in over a year. Yeah.
we will get to that in the breakout room. And so I would like to, so now I'm going to close out here. So you could go to our website. You could find the placemat that we've created about fetal alcohol syndrome and all these other shaken baby and everything else. That's on our website. You will find all kinds of resources on our website about this. And I invite you to look at it. If you are considering thinking about having a baby, if you're being sexually active at any point, you could be creating a wonderful little child. And so please be safe. Men and women, nobody wants to be responsible for harming an innocent child. And once the brain is damaged, there's not anything you can do to change that brain after that damage has occurred. You can love and nurture that person. Of course, that's what we want you to do. But we don't want anything to happen that could be prevented in the first place. So I always like to close with a story, and I was trying to think, what in the world am I going to close with? So this is X for a Kiss. And our custom, this is very interesting, our custom of putting X's at the end of letters to symbolize kisses, they actually grew out of medieval legal practices. In order to indicate good faith and honesty, the sign of St. Andrew was placed after the signature on all important documents. The sign is quite like the letter and looks like the letter X. So contracts and agreements were not considered binding until each signer added St. Andrew's cross after his name. Then he was required to kiss it to guarantee the faithful performance of his obligations. Well, over the centuries, the origin of the ceremony was forgotten, but people associated X with a kiss instead of that pledge of good faith, and the modern custom was born. So when we're thinking about our children, let's just think about kissing them and loving them and nurturing them and doing absolutely the best that we can for them. So thanks for joining us tonight. If you're on Facebook or YouTube, this will be at the end of the presentation. If you are on Zoom with us, we are going to go right away into breakout rooms, and we're going to have further discussion, and then more questions could be answered by Eileen. So thanks again for joining us tonight. Have a blessed night. Bye-bye.